Hey, so all realities exists. Stop limiting yourself. Stop limiting yourself to one thing, one definition, one label. Stop doing that because when you do that, you limit the things you can experience. You limit your capacity to grow, your capacity to experience more, to heal faster, to experience other beings. When you completely say, hey, no, that's not real, it's okay to say that. It's okay to believe that. But if you do that, you are limiting your experience by simply saying and believing that, because that becomes the energy that you magnetize, the vibration that you can exist at. So, they're popping into my mind people who don't believe they can be abundant, who believe abundance is only money. You're limiting yourself if you only believe that's the way abundance comes. You're limiting yourself if you only think that being successful or, you know, in a space that you can do whatever you want is to have money. That's a limit. That's a limit of creation forcing you to create the reality you want based on how much money you have. You don't have to do that. You don't have to limit yourself that way. The other one that came up, I was on a podcast with Ruben Langdon and we were talking about Sasquatch, and somebody asked about our Sasquatch from here. And that's a limit. The experience that I've had is not that. It's not one thing. And I've heard people say it's one thing, but that's the reality. That's the limit they're experiencing, because there are multiple timelines, there are multiple realities, there are multiple dimensions, universes, all of this stuff. And so to say Sasquatch is only from Earth, that they are an evolution of humanity, is a limitation. It's a limitation to not understand that the beings we call Sasquatch, yes, some of them are evolutions of humanity. Some of them are galactics from other worlds. Some of them are from other dimensions, that sort of thing. Not all of them are one thing. Groups of them, there are groups that, yes, they identify as having evolved from humanity before we were tweaked and shot off long, long time ago with our ancestors. There are other groups that will say they are galactic in nature. And we forget that a lot of these beings are kind of like us. We don't know our true history. We only know what we can experience and tap into with the Akashic and different things. We don't know the true history of humanity. There's so many different versions out there, even in the spiritual community, even in people who look at the Akashic records. There are so many different versions of what people see, because there are so many different timelines and realities and experiences, and it's all real. And this whole idea of, you know, vilifying people or telling them they're wrong or you're better because you know the answer and they don't, all these different things. We need to get rid of that, because it's all real. And if you're subscribing to one thing, you're subscribing to a limitation. Now, there are things that in my reality I don't subscribe to, in the sense of wanting it in my reality. That does not mean it does not exist. There are things that I refuse to allow into my reality and accept. It does not mean I don't believe in it. It does not mean I don't believe in the possibility or existence of it. It means that I want nothing to do with the reality and timeline that exists on. Uh, you know, there are things like uh, they keep saying politics because politics are coming up for a lot of people. I don't subscribe to politics. It's a game to me. I can see through the illusion of the whole system. I can see through the illusion of what's going on, because I'm an observer and I've mastered that space of feeling the energies, feeling the truth, seeing what's happening, sitting outside and going, what is the truth of what's going on? And it's one of these things that I go, you know what? I just don't want that in my reality anymore. So now I exist on a reality where it doesn't even affect me. It's not something that's real to me, because my timeline and reality do not include it. It is not This idea of limitations, it does not mean it does not exist somewhere. It does. It exists in the reality of those I come into who I'm trying to lift and shift into a higher timeline, a higher reality where the chaos and conflict and confusion and division of these tactics don't exist. Those realities exist. You have to move yourself into them. So then I shift into spaces where I can speak to people and say, like, hey, yeah, become the observer. Stop being a participant in this situation, become the observer, and know that there are no limitations. A lot of people believe they're limited by things such as politics, that they have to participate in these situations, that they have to play these games, that they have to do XYZ. There are timelines and realities where you don't have to participate in that, where it doesn't matter. It's not it's not real in that time and space. And so we create our own world, our heaven on earth. And as many of you know, that is not part of heaven on earth. That energy, that division, that chaos, those types of things. So remember, you're not limited by anything. You're only limited, obviously, let's say saying the wrong thing in the kind of way. So you're only limited by one thing. You're not actually limited by the other stuff. You're only limited by one thing, and that's you, your belief system, your energy. That's your limit. And when you do that, you create division, is the point. When you limit yourself, you create division from the rest of the universe. When you limit the beliefs and the ability to observe and understand that other people live in their own realities, and that's okay for them to do, you limit your ability to unite with them. So our job is to create the reality that we want, the heaven on earth that we wish to experience, to understand that we don't have to participate in the realities of other people, that we don't have to be part of, the things that cause chaos and division and these types of things that are against unity. But in order to have unity, we also have to have a loving heart space for those who choose those realities, to let them choose those realities and to let it be. Doesn't mean we have to agree with each other, just like with the Sasquatch thing. People fight about that all the time. Were they evolved humans? Were they galactics? Were they something else? The truth is, it's all of it. The unified way of observing it is that everything exists, is that all the timelines and realities exist, and that somewhere somebody met a galactic Sasquatch. I have. Somewhere somebody met those who evolved from humanity. I have. They're different. They're still Sasquatch, but they come from different places, you know. And it's the same thing with like politics. You don't have to participate in politics. There are people living beautiful, amazing lives, not participating at all in that game, in that division. And then there are people who are involved in it and digging deep into it, trying to shift it. And then there are people who are just sunk in it and part of the chaos and division. They're all allowed to be doing that. That's all their choice. It's the reality they choose to exist in. But you get to choose which reality you exist in too. And the key is to know that there are no limits other than your belief system, other than your energy, yourself. You are the limit. And if you wish to pull yourself out of a reality or not subscribe to something, then you have to do that within yourself. At the same time, understanding that unity only comes by accepting and loving that everyone else has their own reality they exist in. And just because you experience something one way doesn't mean it's wrong for somebody else to experience it that way too. We all have our own experiences, and that's the key to unity. We have to understand we truly are, every single one of us, living in our own reality, perceptions, creation, and it's perfectly okay. And it's perfectly a space of love when we understand that and come at it from a unity space. Love you all. Grateful for each and every one of you.